Welcome back, and we start our first segment of the press review. And first, I would like to welcome our guest, Lobna Salaman, radio journalist. Hello, Mrs. Lobna, and welcome to our breakfast show.
Thank you.
First, we're going to start with Al-Masri newspaper, where we read President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has received on Tuesday the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore and the National Security Minister in the presence of the Minister of Trade and Industry. Tariq Qabil, chairperson of the Public Intelligence Service and the chairperson of the General Authority for Economic Zone of the Suez Canal. Presidency spokesman Ambassador Ala Yusuf said that President al-Sisi has welcomed the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore and his accompanying delegation and asked him to deliver his greeting to the President of Singapore. Also, Yusuf added that the meeting tackled means of combating terrorism as well as boosting economic cooperation between the two countries. Mrs. Lobna, how do you see so far the background of cooperation between Egypt and Singapore, and what are the means of cooperation and what are the fields?
Well, as we know that President Sisi was back in Singapore in a major tour back in August-September 2015. It included Indonesia, China, and Singapore was one of the stops there. Singapore has got expertise in water resources management and also in development and in maritime management. So I guess these are the main domains of cooperation that will be between Egypt and Singapore. And also, we've been celebrating 50 years of ties between the two countries. Egypt was the first country to recognize the independence of Singapore back in 1965. And what I see that President Sisi now is trying to, get back relations with Asian countries, with African countries, with European countries. We have to diversify our cooperation ties with many countries. So with Singapore, it's vocational training, it's resources management, and also maritime management. So because of the Suez Canal as well.
Okay, and how Singapore can benefit from Egypt? How can we help Singapore and what fields also?
I guess that when we have exchange of expertise, when we have exchange of cooperation, it's as I see with Singapore, it's not just it's not going to be trade, and as much as work cooperation in expertise. So I guess both countries can manage that.
And why we started with Singapore? Why you focused on this country in particular?
I guess it's not this focus on Singapore only. As I said, that it was one of the stops of President Sisi.
I know, what's the importance of Singapore to be in the agenda of the visiting?
Because of we have the Suez Canal, we have the development zone of Suez Canal, and Singapore has got an expertise in this field, especially in this field. So I guess this will be the main item of cooperation.
Okay, moving also to to Al-Ahram newspaper, where we read Prime Minister Sharif Ismail received on Tuesday the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore and Coordinating Minister of Singapore National Security, who is currently visiting Egypt at the head of the high-ranking ministerial delegation. The meeting was attended by by the Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, Hossein El-Mughezi. During the meeting, Prime Minister Ismail held the depth of relations between the two countries. For his part, the Deputy Prime Minister of Singapore said that the visit of the Singaporean delegation comes within the framework of his country's desire to strengthen cooperation with Egypt in all fields to wider horizons. The visit coincides with the 5th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations of the two countries. Here also we have Prime Minister Sharif Ismail also received the Deputy Prime Minister.
Yes,
how do you see the significance also of such a meeting?
As I see that, it's this time we are seeing with Singapore, Sisi met the delegation, and also the Prime Minister met the delegation, and we have also the Minister of Irrigation.
Yes.
So, I guess that, there will be strong relations, will be strong cooperation between both countries. So, it's on the official level, it's very important.
Okay, and moving to الأخبار اليوم newspaper, where we read France's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Development will arrive in Cairo on Wednesday of a 2-day visit to participate with his Arab counterparts in the Arab League Committee meeting responsible for the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, according to the statement from the French Embassy in Cairo. At the Arab League Ministerial meeting will tackle his country's initiative for an international conference that aims to resume the Palestinian-Israeli negotiations. It will also meet President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his counterpart Sameh Shukri to tackle bilateral cooperation and regional affairs. And to know more about this topic, we have in the following report.
According to a statement from the French Embassy in Cairo, France's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Development, Jean-Marc Ayrault, will arrive in Cairo on Wednesday for a 2-day visit to participate with his Arab counterparts in an Arab League Committee meeting responsible for the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. At the Arab League ministerial meeting, Ayrault will tackle his country's initiative for an international conference that aims to resume the Palestinian-Israeli negotiations. Ayrault will also meet President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and his counterpart Sameh Shukri to tackle bilateral cooperation and regional affairs. The French FM was sworn in on the 11th of February, succeeding Laurent Fabius, who also held talks within the committee in June 2015. The committee was commissioned by Sharm el-Sheikh's Arab League Summit in 2015 to work towards ending the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories and to advocate a two-state solution. France calls for a greater role for the UN and the international community in the Palestinian-Israeli peace process to encourage both sides to conclude an agreement in the near future.
And Mrs. Lobna, how do you see also the significance of the arrival of France's Foreign Minister of Foreign Affairs and the International Development? How do you see such a visit also?
Well, this visit will be the first because he's a new foreign minister. He assumed office back in February, so this will be his first visit to Egypt. While he'll be taking part in this committee when designated for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, to solve it, this committee was commissioned back in 2015 in the Arab Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh. So well, I hope that this time, well, there will be something done about the conflict, because it's been going for years and years and years. So I hope this time we'll reach a solution.
Do you believe France will have a say this time in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine?
Well, I hope. I hope this time we'll come to a solution. Yes.
Okay. Moving to Al-Ahram newspaper, where we read Egypt's parliament approved on Tuesday its new internal bylaws that will regulate the conduct of MPs over the next 5 years. Over the past 3 months since Parliament's first session, the proceedings were regulated by the 1979 bylaws. At the end of the debates on Tuesday, Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel Al said that the Parliament's first concrete achievement and these bylaws are slated to reinforce Parliament's supervisory and legislative powers. The final debates on Parliament's bylaws saw significant changes on Monday and on Tuesday. MPs decided that the total number of Parliament's committees would be 25 rather than 28, and MPs also rejected the creation of an independent committee aimed at fighting corruption and graft under the title the Transparency and Integrity Committee. To know more about this in the following report.
Parliament approved on Tuesday its new internal bylaws that will regulate the conduct of MPs over the next 5 years. Over the past 3 months since Parliament's first session, the proceedings were regulated by the 1979 bylaws. At the end of the debates on Tuesday, Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel Al said that this is Parliament's first concrete achievement, and these bylaws are stalled to reinforce Parliament's supervisory and legislative powers. Bahauddin Abu Shukka, the Wafd Party MP and chairman of the committee that drafted the bylaws, said that Parliament's new bylaws are a new step towards democracy in Egypt. Abu Shukka explained that a 6-member committee will be created to put the new bylaws in their final form. The final debates on Parliament's bylaws saw significant changes on Monday and Tuesday. MPs decided that the total number of Parliament committees would be 25 rather than 28. MPs also rejected the creation of an independent committee aimed at fighting corruption and graft under the title the Transparency and Integrity Committee. They also voted down a request aimed at creating an independent committee on media affairs.
I'm still with Mrs. Lobna Salaman. Mrs. Lobna, what's your opinion about the parliaments? How do you see the parliament's work and the members of the parliament? We need your general opinion about the parliament of this year.
Well, I know that the parliament has been criticized a lot during the past three months because of some of the conduct of some of the MPs. But what I would like to say that there are, well, the majority of the MPs in this parliament are very respected people, and they have an aim just to to improve the atmosphere in Egypt, to put the legislations that would encourage investments and all that. So I'm sure that in spite of some of the conduct of some of the MPs, I'm sure that this Parliament will do something. I'm very hopeful about it, actually.
But in your own opinion, why they rejected the creation of an independent committee to fight corruption and graft under the title Transparency and Integrity?
This is which I don't understand, actually, because, well, the President has been trying to, the main issue is to fight corruption and to have transparency. And when you have this, a lot of things will improve. So I don't understand why they rejected this. I hope that the other committees would have part of it, will have this work about fighting corruption. I don't know about it, but I hope that the other committees would have this, this bit. Actually, I hope that they would have a committee for corruption, actually fighting corruption, I hope.
Okay, moving to الأخبار اليوم, where we read Parliament Speaker Ali Abdel received Iraqi President and his accompanied delegation at the Parliament. Abdel stressed on the strengthening historical relationships between both countries, noting that they shared a great challenge in facing terrorism and resisting it with full force. The Parliament Speaker expressed strong rejection for any foreign intervention in Iraq's internal affairs. On the other hand, El Mawsoon thanked Abdel on his warm welcoming, assuring that Egypt is always supporting Iraq in its crisis. We had a visit by the Iraqi president. How do you see the timing of the visit by the president, Iraq president?
Actually, we all know the crisis of Iraq since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Iraq has been facing acts of terrorism, has been facing divisions between Sunni and Shiites, and this is actually it's very deplorable to see the state that Iraq has reached today. So I guess having the president today, it's that they need the cooperation of Egypt, because Egypt is always the heart of the Arab nation. And we would like to extend our hands to all the Arab nations to have, all the Arab nations should have cooperation among them, just to face terrorism, and because terrorism is really tearing the region apart.
But from your own point of view, why Iraq nowadays is low profile? There is not, it's not under the focus like other countries.
Because it's been going on for so long. Maybe that's why. Because for Syria and for Libya, it's more recent. But for Iraq, it's been going since 2003. Mm-hmm. So I guess maybe it's when things go for long, they are a bit forgotten, or but low profile. But this is very important that to have the Iraqi president nowadays, it means that they seek solution to the crisis.
Okay, moving to Al Wafd newspaper, where we read Egypt's main index, Egypt's 30 continues a week of gains on Tuesday, rising 1.25% to reach 6,339 points in the session that saw turnovers recover. Daily stock turnovers for listed securities registered EGP 588.6 million. Or $75.2 million. Arab and foreign investors were net buyers to the tune of EGP 35.7 million or $4.6 million. And also we have in Al Shuruq newspaper, also we read Egypt Central Bank CBE lifted the monthly cap on dollar deposits and withdrawal by individuals. The CBE had imposed last February limits on foreign currency deposits of $50,000 per month and $10,000 daily in an attempt to eradicate the foreign currency black market and tackle the country's foreign exchange crisis. But the restrictions remain valid on the companies. What's your opinion about the decision that was taken since February to put limitations on the withdrawal of the dollar, and now yesterday they lifted this restriction?
Well, I guess the decision is very wise because when you liberate the price of the currency, this would put an end to the black market. So I guess this is very wise from the Central Bank of Egypt.
Do you believe it will solve the problem of the dollar that is now in Egypt?
Well, solving the problem of Egypt, well, in my opinion, it's not just now in this decision. I mean that well, solving the problem of the dollar will come from when we have the balance of trade. I mean, when we have imports and exports at the same balance. Because what we have now is imports, and imports, it means that the balance is not quite well. Because less exports and more imports, that will rise the price of the dollar. So, well, exports means that we should have production. And then, well, this would put the balance back to the trade, and then the price of the dollar won't be that way.
Okay, and moving to Al-Wafd, where we read Egypt's official census authority says that although Egyptian women make up around 50% of the country's population of 90 million, they constitute less than a quarter of the country's labor force. In its report on Tuesday marking International Women's Day, the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics said that Egypt is home to 44.1 million women, or 49%, and 45.9 million men, or 51%. The number of females in Egypt's workforce constitutes almost a third of that of men, 23.5%, as opposed to 72.3%. Over a quarter of this figure, 27.3%, are employed in the public sector, mostly in the service branch, compared to 73% to the male workforce. So, what's your comment on, first, on the International Women's Day, which is celebrated around the world?
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was yesterday, and well, in a week's time also we're going to have the Egyptian Women's Day on the 16th. Well, I guess, well, the woman, well, not just in Egypt, but all over the world, the woman constitutes a lot in the workforce. She's the one who, she's the mother, she's the wife, well, she's everything in the society. So I guess that it's not just we have to celebrate a day, but we have to give back the woman her status in society. So this is very important for the woman. Well, I guess, well, in Egypt, we're very lucky that, well, the pay in Egypt is not just like in other countries where the males are paid more than females. But in Egypt, it's not that way. So I'm happy that, well, this is a step towards, well, regaining her status in society.
Well, Mrs. Lobna Salaman, radio journalist, thank you very much for joining our breakfast show.
Thank you very much.
Welcome once again. And this brings us to the end of the press review segment. Please stay tuned for more in the breakfast show.